The table looked like something out of a magazine. Polished silverware, freshly ironed napkins. A golden brown turkey sat perfectly centered, surrounded by rosemary sprigs and glazed carrots. Candles flickered like it was some kind of fairy tale, but fairy tales don't feel this fake. Ethan smiled politely as he took his seat, but something in the air already felt wrong, like walking into a surprise party for your own funeral. His sister Rachel stood up. She wore burgundy silk and a smile too smooth to be real. In one hand, she held a wine glass like a judge holding a gavel. Then she said it, cold, flat, final. "We've discussed it," she said, "and we voted. Ethan, you're not family anymore." Silence, and then clapping. It started slow from her husband Greg, then spread like poison. Linda, their mother, joined in with soft, fluttering applause. Their father Tom didn't clap. He just nodded slowly, still looking down at his plate. No one said a word in Ethan's defense. No one even looked shocked. This wasn't a moment of madness. It was planned, rehearsed, delivered with a smile. Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't yell. He didn't even blink. He let out a sound quiet, unexpected, a laugh. Not the kind you make when you hear a joke, the kind that slips out when everything clicks and finally breaks. "Okay," he said softly, his voice steady, like it wasn't his world falling apart in front of him. He reached into his jacket, calm as ever. The room watched in confusion, their applause fading into awkward silence. And then, with a quiet thud, he placed a thick manila folder on the center of the table. It slid gently across the cloth, stopping just inches from Rachel's perfectly polished plate. Her eyes narrowed. Her smile froze. Ethan said nothing. He just leaned back, eyes locked on hers, steady, unblinking. Greg looked at the folder, then back at Ethan. "What's in the folder, Ethan?" No answer. Just silence, and the smell of something roasting, no longer just the turkey. Cut to black. End of chapter 1. Some people keep scrapbooks. Ethan kept receipts. Old emails, screenshots, bank transfers, sticky notes on the side of statements that once felt too personal to keep, but too painful to throw away. It started like a slow bleed. One night, unable to sleep, Ethan sat at his desk and opened an empty spreadsheet, just for himself. Just to understand. He typed the first entry, $12,000, cosmetic dental surgery for Rachel. He remembered it clearly. He was 22, eating ramen noodles every night so she could smile without shame. Second entry, $20,000, seed money for Greg's big idea. That startup never even launched. Ethan never asked for repayment. He just waited. Third, $7,800. Credit card debt Mom was too ashamed to tell Dad about. She cried on the phone. Ethan wired the money within hours. Fourth, $300, $200. Vet bills for the family dog Max. They didn't even tell him Max had died until a year later. More and more. Rows filled. Amounts grew. When he finally tallied it all, the number on the screen stared back like a ghost. $85,400. And not 1 cent, not one thank you ever came back. They didn't just take his money. They took his peace, his trust, and called it love. It was just another Tuesday. Ethan was walking back from the grocery store, hands full of eggs, bread, and almond milk. His phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. He opened it. "Just gotta sweet-talk him a little. That spineless cash cow will pay up." His feet stopped moving. The sidewalk tilted. Something inside him cracked but made no sound. A second later, another text popped up. "Oops, sorry, wrong person." But the damage already done. Spineless cash cow. That's what she called him. Not Ethan. Not my brother. Just a wallet with no spine and too much guilt. His hands trembled. Eggs nearly fell to the ground. His heart pounded, not from rage, but realization. This was never love. This was always a transaction, one-sided, ugly, hidden behind birthday cards and family selfies. He took a screenshot, not for revenge, but for proof of what his gut had always whispered and his heart refused to believe. They didn't love him, they used him, and now they slipped. Ethan said no. That's all it took. Rachel had called asking him to co-sign a massive loan for her new spa. Her tone was sweet, her voice practiced, but this time Ethan didn't bite. He said calmly, "I can't do that. Not I won't, not you don't deserve it, just I can't." And just like that, he vanished. Not literally, but socially, emotionally, from every screen, every chat, every plan. First, it was the family group chat. One day he was in it, the next, gone. Not even a who left message. He checked. It didn't exist for him. Then came the events. Barbecues, birthdays, baby showers. Photos showed up on Facebook, smiling faces, matching shirts captioned with inside jokes. Ethan wasn't tagged. Ethan wasn't invited. Ethan wasn't even mentioned. No texts, no calls, not even a fake "we missed you." They didn't confront him. They just cut him out, like trimming a dead branch from a tree they'd built with his hands. He had become invisible to the very people he'd once put above himself. David didn't ask how Ethan was. He already knew. They sat across from each other at their usual coffee shop, one that smelled like burnt espresso and quiet comfort. Ethan slid his phone across the table. The screenshot of Rachel's message, "Spineless cash cow," still burned on the screen. David didn't blink. He just sighed and said, "They're not family, Ethan. They're parasites." That word hit harder than expected. Parasites. Feeding off his loyalty, siphoning his kindness, calling it support. Something in Ethan shifted that day. Not with rage, not with revenge, just clarity. He went home, opened a shoebox full of old papers, invoices, receipts, transfer confirmations, handwritten notes that said things like, "We'll pay you back next month," or "just until Dad gets better." He pulled out his laptop, created a folder, Truth. For the first time, he let himself look, really look. And that's when he found it. A hotel charge from a business trip to Miami, Rachel's emergency spa conference. The bill was double what she told him. On a hunch, Ethan called the hotel. "Hi, I was the card holder for a stay last October. Can I get a detailed breakdown?" The clerk was polite, routine. "Sure. Looks like there were 2 guests, a room upgrade, daily breakfast, and a full spa package under the name Jess." Jess? Ethan's stomach dropped. He didn't know anyone named Jess. And he was pretty damn sure Greg didn't either. The number on the hotel receipt had been bugging him for days. It wasn't just high. It didn't match anything Rachel had told him. She'd said it was a quick business trip for her spa, just 2 nights. She was stressed. She needed this to secure investors. But Ethan kept staring at the charge. 2 nights, $918.75. For 2 nights? So he called. "Hi, yeah, I'm the card holder. I was just hoping to get a breakdown of the charges from a stay last October." The woman on the other end was cheerful. Probably thought she was helping. "Of course, let me pull that up. Let's see. Okay, so we had 2 adults listed. You were upgraded to a suite, room service every night, spa package for guest 2, Jess, and a bottle of champagne with the custom note on arrival." Silence. Ethan didn't respond because his body stopped responding. Jess. He didn't know any Jess. Rachel didn't have a friend named Jess. And Greg sure as hell wouldn't send Rachel to a hotel with someone named Jess. Champagne spa for 2. His mouth went dry. His hand trembled as he took notes. The woman on the phone paused. "Sir, is everything okay?" Ethan forced a breath. "Yeah," he lied. "Yeah, thank you. That's all I needed." But it wasn't, because now he needed to know, who the hell is Jess? Ethan printed the receipt. It came out warm, humming from the tray like something alive. He slid it into the folder. The last page. The final piece. There it was, Rachel. The lies, the misuse, the betrayal no one could spin away. He stared at the closed folder for a long time, his fingers resting on the cover, not shaking, not sweating. He didn't feel rage. He didn't feel heartbreak. He felt nothing but clarity. It was over. Not the drama, not the confrontation, but the illusion. For the first time in years, he wasn't hoping someone would change. He wasn't waiting for a thank you, or a phone call, or a last-minute apology. That folder didn't just contain receipts, it held the truth, and truth was enough. He leaned back in his chair, exhaled slowly, and whispered under his breath, "No more." From that moment, he stopped being the spineless cash cow. He became something else entirely, a man ready to walk into the fire, holding every match they handed him. It was almost quiet enough to hear the candles flicker. Ethan stood slow and steady. His chair let out the softest scrape across the hardwood floor. He reached into his jacket and pulled out the folder. All eyes followed it as he walked around the table, not rushed, not theatrical, just focused. He stopped in front of Rachel, and with a calmness that unnerved them more than shouting ever could, he set the folder down, right in front of her. It landed with a thud, heavy, unavoidable, the sound of consequences. Rachel's smile twitched. Her fingers hovered above it, hesitant. Then she opened it. The first page? A spreadsheet. Clean, brutal. Date, amount, recipient, purpose. Ethan didn't speak. He didn't have to. Rachel's face drained of color. Her throat tightened. Her mouth opened, then closed. No sound came out. Greg leaned in. "What's this?" He snatched the folder from her hands, eyes scanning. Line after line. Dollar after dollar. "Then $85,420? He read aloud, stunned. "What the hell is this, Rachel?" He turned the page. The screenshot. Rachel's text message. "Just gotta sweet-talk him a little. That spineless cash cow will pay up." Silence. And then the shift. The room turned. Ethan didn't need to say a word. The evidence spoke loud enough. The room wasn't silent anymore. It was volatile, like something just sparked under the surface. Greg's fingers gripped the folder tighter. His jaw clenched. He didn't look at Ethan. He looked at Rachel, dead in the eye. "Jess," he said slowly, voice low. "Who the hell is Jess?" Rachel's eyes darted, first to her mother, then to Ethan, then back to Greg. She opened her mouth. Nothing. Closed it. Tried again. Still nothing. Greg stood up so fast his chair screeched behind him. "You told me that trip was for a spa investor. You said you went alone." He flipped through the hotel receipt again, his finger stabbing the paper. "Full spa package. For 2. Guest name, Jess. You took someone else. You took my money, his credit card, and you took someone else." Linda, Mom finally spoke. "Greg, please, let's not do this here." "No, Mom," Greg snapped. "You knew, didn't you? That's why you were clapping, because you wanted to bury Ethan before he could expose all of you." Rachel's hands shook. "Tom," Dad finally looked up from his plate. His eyes weren't angry. They were tired. The family front shattered. No one was defending Rachel now. No one was mocking Ethan anymore. They weren't a team. They were falling apart. Ethan just stood there, calm. Not victorious, not smug, just quiet, watching the empire collapse. The room was in shambles. The family was fractured. Faces red, eyes wide, truth dripping from every corner like spilled wine. Ethan stepped forward, not angry, not loud, just resolved. He looked at his mother, then his father, finally back to Rachel, and then he said it, clear, sharp, echoing. "I didn't break this family. I just turned on the lights so you could see what was already broken." Silence. No one argued, no one even breathed. Ethan reached into his coat pocket again, this time pulling out a white envelope. "This is from my lawyer." He placed it on the table, next to the folder, neatly. "Final. As of this morning, the power of attorney you made me sign is revoked. I've removed myself as your emergency contact, your financial fallback, your invisible safety net." He turned to Rachel. "You wanted me erased? Congratulations. I'm gone. No dramatics, no tears." He walked to the front door. No one stopped him. No one called out. And Ethan didn't look back. Not even once. He thought leaving would bring silence. But silence doesn't come that easy. The next morning, his phone lit up like fireworks. Missed calls, voicemails, text after text. First, his mother. "Ethan, please call me. We can fix this." 2 hours later, "I didn't raise you to turn your back on family." That night, "Don't make me come find you." Then Greg, cold, explosive, accusatory. "You happy now? She's filing for divorce. You tore everything apart." And finally, Rachel, short. "Too late. I'm sorry for how things went down." That was it. Not, "I was wrong." Not, "Thank you." Just a sentence like, "She was brushing off spilled milk." Ethan stared at the screen. No tears, no reaction, just confirmation. They didn't miss him. They missed the role he played. He opened each thread and blocked them all, one by one. Mother, Rachel, Greg. No dramatic goodbye, no closure, just one final tap. Block, block, block. And for the first time in years, his phone was quiet. The city was smaller, quieter. Not what Ethan was used to, but maybe that was the point. He moved into a one-bedroom apartment with creaky floors and old pipes. But it was his. Every inch, every drawer, every corner. His space, his rules. No one texted to ask for money. No one called in a fake panic. No one expected anything except that he show up as himself. At first, the silence was loud, too loud. There were nights he stood in the kitchen, microwave dinner in hand, and just felt the emptiness wrap around him like a blanket that didn't warm. But slowly, that silence became peace. That emptiness became room. Room to breathe, room to heal, room to become someone who didn't need to be needed just to feel loved. He made friends, real ones, people who didn't keep score, who showed up for coffee or sat in silence with him after a hard day, no questions asked. One of them was David. Their Friday night dinners became a ritual. Laughter, stories, no guilt attached. And for the first time in his adult life, Ethan understood something profound. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who you choose. And who chooses you back. He thought the hardest part would be walking away. It wasn't. The hardest part was knowing who he had to leave behind. Mia, Rachel's daughter, 8 years old. The only light in a house filled with shadows. She used to run into his arms every time he visited, call him Uncle E, beg for shoulder rides until his legs burned from carrying her across the zoo. She never asked for money, just stories, laughter, time. Ethan hadn't seen her since that Thanksgiving. He didn't blame her. She didn't choose the people around her. She was just collateral damage in a war she didn't start. One Sunday, Ethan was walking through the park, trying to clear his head. He heard laughter, pure, high-pitched, untangled. He looked over and saw a man pushing a little girl on a swing. She laughed so hard she kicked her legs like she was flying. And for a second, just a second, Ethan's breath caught in his chest. He saw himself. He saw Mia. His hands tightened into fists. Not in anger, in ache. There would be no more zoo trips, no more coloring books, no more birthday cards with silly puns and $10 bills inside. Just silence. And a name he still whispered sometimes when no one was around. Mia, his last ghost. It wasn't expensive, just a plain white mug he picked up at a corner store. No gold lettering, no glitter, no cheesy quote about coffee being life. Just one word, Ethan, printed in black. Simple, small, centered. It replaced the old one, the one that said "World's Best Uncle" in bright blue letters, the one Mia gave him when she was 6. That mug used to mean everything. Now it felt like a relic from another lifetime. This new one, it didn't try to flatter, didn't carry a title he no longer felt worthy of. It was just him. And for the first time in a long, long while, that was enough. He poured his coffee, sat by the window, watched the city wake up. No texts, no begging, no guilt. Just a man, a quiet morning, and a mug with his name. I don't feel anger anymore. I don't feel pity, not even sadness. What I feel is something quieter, heavier, but strangely peaceful. I'm not mourning a family I lost. I'm accepting that the family I always wanted never existed. And that's okay, because the truth, no matter how painful, frees you. I spent years trying to prove I was worthy, that if I just gave more, forgave more, stayed quiet longer, they would see me, choose me, want me. But they didn't, and maybe they never could. And now I don't need them to. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop waiting to be chosen and choose yourself. I chose me, and I finally feel free. Sometimes the most painful realizations are also the most liberating. Ethan's story reminds us that not all families are built on love. Some are built on guilt, obligation, and invisible chains that grow heavier over time. The truth is, being related by blood doesn't guarantee respect, compassion, or safety. And that's okay, because family isn't who shares your last name, it's who shares your truth, your growth, your peace. There's no shame in walking away from what breaks you. There's courage in saying enough. There's power in choosing yourself. So if you're holding on to relationships that only exist because you're too afraid to let go, ask yourself, did they love me for who I am or for what I give? And if the answer hurts, maybe it's time to stop apologizing for healing. If Ethan's journey touched something deep inside you, if you've ever been the silent giver, the invisible backbone, or the one they never truly saw, then this channel, Pieces of Soul, is for you. We tell stories that hurt, heal, and remind you are not alone, and you are not weak for walking away. So take that first brave step. Subscribe to the channel, like this video if it made you feel seen, and share your own story in the comments. We read every single one. Because here, every piece of your soul matters.